Welcome, everybody, to Lemon Live at 5. I'm live from, you can call it a remote location. Quite honestly, I'm getting ready to do Mr. Ari Melbourne. And so I'm doing the show from there because this is really important news that we're going to talk about. As we say here, this, you know what, is crazy. This is actually really crazy. And I just want to take you, this is Senator Patty Murray, I believe this is from the floor of the House, and she's speaking now. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that the government doesn't shut down. I'm not sure if they will be successful at it at this point, because it looks like with everything that's happening out there that the government is going to shut down. Democrats are fighting for health care. The Republicans are saying, no, 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 we don't want any of that. No health care, no nothing. So that's what we're seeing from Washington, D.C. right now. And that's where we're going to start, at this looming shutdown. So let's start with Washington. That's where the clock is ticking right now. It's ticking towards a government shutdown. A shutdown, not about balancing budgets. It's not about fiscal discipline. This is about something much more. It's not about helping working families. We're told it's about health care for illegals. We are told that it is about trans athletes, two of the oldest scapegoats in American politics right there. That's what that is. Because we know that not to be true at this point. None of that is true. But that's what they're saying to you. Two of the oldest scapegoats in American politics, the immigrant and then the outcast. That's what's happening here. Otherize people. Let's talk about the immigrant. Let's talk about the outcast. There is no evidence for any of it. Not a line in the budget, not a number in the ledger. As a matter of fact, they're saying that Democrats want to give health care to illegals. That is actually against the law. It's lies designed to divide. And yet millions of Americans, park rangers, TSA agents, food safety inspectors, service members, they're about to be thrown out in chaos because of a handful of politicians who would rather manufacture culture wars than to govern. And here's the difference this time. Democrats, their voters, their base, they're saying enough. They're telling their leaders to fight back, to don't cave, don't compromise your own people away, because this is not just a budget battle. This is a battle for the soul of the Democratic Party itself. Now, whether most of the country's on their side, that's a whole different story. I'm not sure that the polling shows that. And then we have Pete Hegseth's show of force today. So I want to go now to Quantico, Virginia. That's where the new Defense Secretary, or Secretary of War, as he calls it, Pete Hegseth, assembled hundreds of Americans, top generals, admirals, for what was supposed to be a show of force today. What did they get? They didn't get any sort of strategy. They got no security briefings. They got lectured, and some of them told how fat they are and that they needed to lose weight. No serious planning. Kind of a pep rally, a backhanded pep rally. They got a scolding. He railed against, Hegseth did, woke culture. He mocked his own officers as fat generals. And I'm quoting, that's a quote. He demanded that anyone who disagreed with his agenda resign on the spot. That's not military leadership. That is intimidation. That is an ideological purge. And here is the real irony here. Pete Hegseth, who not 2 weeks ago stood red-faced on a makeshift stage, struggling to crank out a pull-up, wobbling through push-ups, and some weird fitness display that they were putting on for the cameras. He has the gall to stand there and lecture career officers about their waistlines. This is the man dictating the physical readiness of the armed forces, this guy. And let's not forget, the man standing beside him, Donald J. Trump, by every honest account, the most out-of-shape president in modern history, a man whose exercise routine consists of a golf cart, who spent more time at the buffet than in the briefing. Lots of hamburgers, McDonald's, French fries, Diet Cokes, the man who could barely walk down a ramp without being steadied, and yet here he is co-signing Hegseth's crusade to clean up the military. That's not patriotism, that is projection. And now to troops in American cities. I hope I'm not depressing you, because this is what it is. This is the kicker. Donald Trump's declaration that American cities should serve as training grounds for the U.S. military. And let me say that again, not Baghdad, not Kabul, not Fallujah, Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit. The President of the United States is openly proposing to deploy troops into American cities, to treat our own streets as battlegrounds, our own people as practice enemies. This is not national defense. I would call it occupation. No, let me say that right. I said that with a question. I would call it occupation, because that's the language of authoritarian regimes. And it appears, in reality, that's where we are now. But the one thing they're being really, really quiet about, suspiciously quiet, doesn't make sense to say loudly quiet, their silence speaks volumes, because it's the shootings that they won't talk about. So while all of this was happening, you had Pete Hegseth, you got the shutdown, you got troops on American streets. Blood was spilled again on American soil. You saw what happened over the weekend. In Michigan, a man stormed into a church in Grand Blanc Township. He killed people at prayer. And then he set the sanctuary on fire. Authorities say his motive was hate, and that it was hate pure and simple. And then in North Carolina, there's some new developments there. Well, let's talk about the Michigan one. They don't want to talk about, because the one in Michigan, there's pictures of him wearing Trump shirts, supporting Trump. Trump signed at his house. A shirt that said, "Make liberals cry again." Trump 2024. Authorities say that the motive was hate. That the motive was hate. Pure and simple. Now to North Carolina. That's where a Marine veteran opened fire from a boat at a crowded bar, killing 3 people, injuring 5 people, sending families running from that waterfront. 2 tragedies, 2 stories of lives cut short. But I can't help but listen to the silence. Where are the MAGA voices on this one? The same MAGA voices that were out for blood as it related to liberals, when they thought the shooter is a liberal. Where are those MAGA voices? Where are the law and order politicians? Where are the loud condemnations that we usually hear when a crime can be pinned on a certain ideology or an immigrant or a black teenager? Where's the outrage then? Or now, I should say. Where's the outrage? Why are they so quiet about it? I have not heard a peep from them since yesterday, since the evidence started coming in about Michigan. They are quiet as church mice. Quiet as church mice. They are complicit because these killers do not fit the narrative. They are not others. They are not useful scapegoats here. And so they are erased. No one will talk about it. So tonight, I want to tell the truth. A truth that they refuse to say out loud. This showdown is not about immigrants, my friends. It's not about trans athletes. It's about cruelty, and it's about control. This military meeting was not about national defense. It was about purging dissent and flexing power. These shootings are not isolated tragedies. They are the direct result of a culture that excuses violence when it comes from its own. And then Pete Hegseth, no moral authority to really call anyone fat when he can barely complete a push-up on live television. And Donald Trump has no business talking about strength when he can barely climb a flight of stairs without help. So this is a moment right now of reckoning. The longer this goes on, these moments become clearer. Do we accept the lies? Do we accept the projection? Do we accept the silence in the face of violence? How much are we willing to put up with? Or do we name it for what it is? Do we refuse to let the scapegoats distract us? Do we demand leaders who fight for the truth and not for vanity? This shutdown clock is ticking. It looks like right now like it's a fait accompli. The generals are watching. The victims of Michigan and North Carolina deserve to be remembered. And the rest of us, we have to decide whether we will live in a nation where troops march down Main Street or one where the people march for justice. Because this elimination is not just another Tuesday in America. This is a story of who we are becoming. And the question is, are we willing to stop it? Are we willing to stop any of this that is going on right now? That is the question. The shutdown, Michigan, North Carolina, and what's happening on the streets of American cities. Donald Trump stood before an audience at Quantico, Virginia today, demonizing fellow Americans and saying some pretty scary words, basically saying that we're at war, a war from within. Here he is.
That's what it is. Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly.
Now, this is the president that's supposed to bring the American people together. But this president somehow now is saying that we're at war, not just with foreign adversaries, but we're at war from within. Now, who is this enemy? Who are these folks that we are at war with? He says that we're at war in American cities. Play it.
Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over.
What is he talking about? What is Donald Trump talking about? That's the question. Our friends over at the Bulwark have some idea.
In the broadest possible sense, this was a policy speech. And the policy was about the deployment of the military domestically.
In our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in. We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military.
And he attempts to lay the predicate to his audience that what he is saying is not exceptional, but stands in a line of things that American presidents have done.
But these service members are following in a great and storied military tradition, from protecting frontier communities to chasing outlaws and bandits in the Wild West. And our history is filled with military heroes who took on all enemies, foreign and domestic. You know that phrase very well. That's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. Well, we also have domestic. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, George Bush, and others all used the armed forces to keep domestic order and peace.
He really doesn't have a lot to say about America's foreign adversaries. It's his domestic enemies that he's really, really focused on. I guess my question, Bill, is it seems to me that this is a warning to everybody in that room that at some point in the future, they're going to be forced to choose between their oath and Trump. And the question is that room filled with people like Mike Pence, or is it filled with people like Pete Hegseth?
All right, pause it there. Okay, that's a very good question. And I think that's one that we should ask of Clay Cane. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's the host on Sirius XM Urban View. Clay, that was some scary shit, man. That was some scary shit. And who are we at war with right now? That's what I want to know. And do you think that they're right over at the Bulwark?
Well, I know for one, according to the FBI director, Christopher Wray, we are at war with white supremacy. That's what they said. That was the greatest domestic terrorism threat. It is white supremacy. I don't know why I don't want to acknowledge that.
Well, they're not talking about that, Clay.
And they're not. They don't want to talk about that. The enemy within, right? So of course, they want to ignore the data. They want to ignore the facts. That is the greatest domestic threat right now. As the guy said, barely even mentioning foreign threat. Because I believe they want their own remixed version of a civil war. That's what they want. Because, when you have war, you can maintain your power. When you have war, you could say, oh, we'll suspend the Constitution. When you have war, you could say, oh, we shouldn't have an election right now, even though during the Civil War, we still had an election. But this is part of the plot. And I look at Pete Hegseth. He's like a former Applebee's manager that just became a Microsoft CEO. I mean, this is unhinged who this guy is. I mean, we got Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Pete Hegseth. I mean, this is like complete lunacy. And he's up there telling people how to be a good soldier with his alleged DUI record, right? He's telling people how they have to look, how they got to behave, as they let go of Lloyd Austin. But he's finger wagging at how you should be properly groomed, when probably everybody in that room has much more experience than him. So we're in a war with white supremacy, according to the FBI. We're in a war with logic. We're in a war with history. We are in a war with common sense. I was watching one of these cable news shows, seeing folks on there babbling, talking about this shit like it's normal, Don.
That's the thing. And I'm going to be on cable news tonight. I don't know if, I don't believe Ari's going to do that, but if he does, I'm going to have to talk. At least I'm going to say it. I don't think Ari's going to do it, but I was on Dan Abrams today on his radio show, and I, had a similar sentiment on Dan Abrams. I was like, it's hard for me to take anything that Pete Hegseth says seriously. It's hard for me to take anything that Donald Trump says seriously, because everything that comes out of his mouth pretty much is a lie. and Pete Hegseth is not qualified. And, you know, I just got a text, I guess he's listening, is Officer Michael Fanone saying he declared war on us or on the U.S.
That's
That's
right.
basically what he did right there, right?
That's right. Pete Hegseth is not a leader. He is a liability. Full stop. He is a liability. But this is what they want. They want this kind of chaos. They want this kind of disorder. And then I keep hearing this bullshit. We have to hear the other side. We have to hear the other side where other people are coming from. That's part of the problem. We don't hear the other side. You know, you didn't hear Dr. King saying we have to hear the other side of Barry Goldwater or William Buckley. They have no side. And can I just point out, this may sound petty, Trump showed up to that event 30 minutes late. I mean, it's just disrespect over and over and over to the people that serve this country. My question is, my father served, my grandfather served in World War II, my uncle served. Seeing that kind of language, disrespecting the way that you look or how you're groomed, for our amazing veterans, seeing veteran services being cut, are we going to keep on supporting this, our amazing veterans? He insulted prisoners of war. He insulted John McCain. What's going to be the wake-up call for the amazing people that serve this country to show this administration does not appear to care about you? Military folks tend to vote more Republican. Is this the Republican administration you want to support? Is this it? What's going to be the wake-up call? I was on the radio 3 hours today. I had folks calling into my show saying, I work for the federal government. I want this to shut down if they can't save healthcare. Yeah. So we got to see what the wake-up call is going to be for people, because we are in a war every way that you could possibly think of. And sadly, the guy at the top was elected, and we need to see some serious fighting.
Clay Kane from the Clay Kane Show on Sirius XM. Clay, I want you to stand by. Michael Fanone is here as well. Michael Fanone is, of course, you know, he survived the insurrection on January 6th. Michael, I know how you feel about this, that Donald Trump declared war. We're going to hear from Michael, but first, give me 2 minutes, a word from our sponsors.
Support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from Hexclad. You ever had that one pan in your kitchen that you hate, but you just keep using it anyway? For me, it was this old nonstick that looked like it had survived 3 world wars. And then I found Hexclad, and I swear it is like I went from dial-up internet to fiber optic to high definition, right? 5G, 6G, I don't know, it was amazing. So it is stainless steel tough, nonstick, easy. My favorite is the 12-inch pan, big enough for a family meal, but light enough that I'm not breaking my wrist flipping it to stir fry. I've done seared steak, I've done salmon, I've even done midnight grilled cheese that came out like fine dining. And the best is like even just scrambling eggs, amazing. And the cleanup, wipe, and you're done. They are scratch resistant, they're oven safe, dishwasher safe, and yes, Gordon Ramsay actually uses them. Now, if it's good enough for him, then it's certainly good enough for me. I don't know, hopefully it's good enough for you. So if you've got that sad old pan haunting your kitchen, upgrade. Go to hexclad.com/lemon for 10% off. That's HEXCLAD.com/lemon. And support for the Don Lemon Show also comes from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. All right, let's talk some facts here, because across this country, politicians are sneaking religion into public schools. 10 Commandments posters, chaplains without training, tax dollars going to private religious schools that turn away LGBTQ students and kids or non-Christians. Now listen, I went to a Catholic elementary and junior high school. I know what a classroom looks like when the church runs it. And then I went to a public high school, and let me tell you, the rules were quite different. The only commandments we needed there were do your homework and don't cut the lunch line. Don't start no mess, or as they say, don't start none, won't be none. That's why the Freedom from Religion Foundation matters. They just won a federal court case in Texas stopping schools from being forced to hang the 10 Commandments in every single classroom. That's the First Amendment at work. So Don't let your rights get rewritten. Go to ffrf.org/school. That's ffrf.org/school. F as in Frank, F as in Frank, R as in rear, F as in Frank. Okay. Or you can text FFRF. You can go to ffrf.org/school, or you can text Don, DON, to 511-511. And text fees may apply.
Thank you to our sponsors. I'm back now with Clay Kane and Michael Fanone. Michael joins us. Michael, you said that he declared war on us or the U.S. Explain yourself, brother.
He declared war on us. And what I meant by that was everybody that stands in opposition to this administration. He referred multiple times to radical leftists and what he means by radical leftist is, again, anyone that stands in opposition. I mean, he constantly refers to people like myself who are, the furthest thing from a radical leftist, but I certainly stand in opposition to this administration as radical leftists. I mean, that's become, they paint all of us with a broad stroke. And that's what he's done now. And, I don't think the messaging here, it wasn't directed at those 800, flag officers from the military. This was a made for TV moment that was directed at rank and file military, but it was also directed at the Fox News audience, the OAN audience. And again, like in a moment in which you would hope for a leader, a president who was capable of calming the American people when we're experiencing, political violence like never seen before in this country. You have a president who, again, is living up to, what I've said, which is no American politician has done more to advocate for political violence than Donald Trump. And to me, this is just further stoking the fires, because I do believe that, what he's looking for, what these moments are designed for, is to spark some type of violent confrontation between the American people and whether it's, military, law enforcement, what have you, so that he can suspend the Constitution, suspend elections, and stay in power forever.
What do you think he means, Michael, by an invasion from within, a war from within?
Oh, I think that, again, it's anybody that stands in opposition to the administration, whether it's politicians that are trying to hold him accountable in the Democratic Party, although they haven't been doing, that great of a job. But again, it's anyone that opposes Donald Trump. Whether it's people like us, people who are using our voices, using our platforms, people that are trying to organize against the administration. I mean, you heard him call out George Soros and somehow try to say that Soros funded or leftist funded organizations are terrorist organizations. And that, again, anyone that stands in opposition to Donald Trump, whatever that looks like, they have declared war on all of us.
Clay, I want to play something, and I want you to weigh in on this. You mentioned Christopher Wray earlier, and you said we're in a war with white supremacy, and I believe aggrieved white men, right, are carrying out these. We have a whole host of issues that are a whole host of things that are issues for the American people. But if we're talking about these shootings that happen, we're talking about the people who are terrorizing American streets right now. That would be the masked people, I believe, the ICE folks. But this one is specifically has to do with domestic terror, and this is Christopher Wray, back in 2019, I believe.
A huge chunk of those domestic terrorism investigations involve racially motivated, violent, extremist motivated terrorist attacks. And the majority of those, of the racially motivated, violent, extremist attacks, are fueled by some kind of white supremacy. And I would say that the most lethal activity over the last few years has been committed by those type of attackers.
Clay?
I mean, there it is. Christopher Wray. FBI director. It's very interesting to hear Michael say that, talking about the enemy and the war within. I wanted to bring this quote up. In 1922, Mussolini said, "We are surrounded by enemies. They are enemies both within and without." I can go down the list of fascists and dictators who have made comments like that, because it's profitable for us to hate each other, turn neighbor against neighbor, point the finger at each other. Oh, it's the trans person. It's the immigrant versus the people that have the power. And I'm thinking of all this stuff right now, as far as you brought up immigration, right? They're deporting all these people, ICE coming down in a mass, deporting all these people. Remember Donald Trump said black jobs?
Yeah.
That these immigrants were taking our black jobs? Well, then, Don, if that's the case, then why are the black unemployment numbers skyrocketing up? I thought they were taking our black jobs. Well, why have black women lost their jobs? 300,000 some black women, but you've kicked out all the immigrants that were taking the black jobs, or you're trying to. It's all bullshit. It's these lies. So we're in wars of ideology, and in wars of ideology, nobody wins. And that right there, what Christopher Wray said they want to ignore, I remember the days when George H.W. Bush denounced the rise of white supremacy groups in the early 1990s and late 1980s. Wasn't a fan of his, but he clearly denounced it. This right here, they're okay with it because respectfully, it appears that they think those groups might vote on their side. I can recall when white supremacy groups were very anti-government. They weren't Democrat or Republican. I remember those days. I'm not saying that none existed, but we're in they appear to thrive off of it. Yeah. And so they got you focused on everything but what Michael said, wanting us to hate each other.
Yeah. Why aren't they talking about that? Why isn't this a priority? I mean, is it that obvious? Is Clay right, Michael, that because either they believe what these folks believe, they think these people are them, or they're just doing it because, I don't know, that they just don't care about it.
I think it's the former. I mean, I think the MAGA movement is clearly rooted in white supremacy and Christian nationalism. Those
Mike,
are
you're a racist. You're a racist for saying that. Why are you so racist against your own people?
I mean, because I call it like it is. And, Donald Trump is an authoritarian. His movement is fascist, and it's rooted in white supremacy, and it's rooted in Christian nationalism. And I, this is just based off of my observations over the past, 10 years now that we unfortunately as Americans have been exposed to all of this. But when you get down to the root reasons as to why people support this movement, it's white supremacy and it's Christian nationalism. And I feel very comfortable and confident in saying that now. But yeah, no, I think that I think that this administration has brought all of those people into the fold in leadership positions. I think there's maybe a few that are just along for the ride because they think that it's going to benefit their careers. But for the most part, I mean, you look at a guy like Pete Hegseth, the guy's covered himself in tattoos of Christian nationalist ideology and white supremacy. I don't know what the fuck Kash Patel is other than, he's an idiot. But he's also, somebody who prior to, taking over that position was a conspiracy theorist, a podcaster, and a somebody whose career was deeply aligned with the same, principles that MAGA is rooted and founded on. And listen, these aren't just my observations and opinions. I know FBI agents who, for their entire careers, have worked, have followed and pursued criminal cases into white supremacist and white nationalist organizations in this country and dedicated their entire careers to that, and now have been removed from those cases to center and focus on organizations that are involved, left leaning, some of which don't even exist in any type of, like Antifa. There is no organized
There's no
entity
central organizing
called.
group, for Antifa.
It doesn't physically exist. Okay, there are people that put on fucking black, hoodies and wear a mask and go around, and they have been colloquially referred to by law enforcement as Antifa. But to say that there's some type of membership requirement other than they just show up at these events wearing black, and maybe there's a handful of them that might coordinate ahead of time, but it it's utter it's a non-existent entity. But what Trump is doing is now he is, like he does with anybody that stands in opposition to him, is he's going to start lumping all of us in with these groups, referring to all of us. When he says Antifa, he means all of us. When he says radical leftists, he means all of us, everyone that is in opposition to Trump. And then you'll start seeing like we have the weaponization of law enforcement under the Trump administration, start targeting individuals in the way that we've already experienced now, as enemies of the country.
Don, may I add something really quick? May I add something?
Yes, I just real quickly, but going off Antifa, I remember back in the day when I used to cover these things, when I would cover the folks who would show up at conventions. I remember I was working as a local anchor and reporter in Philadelphia, and the Republican convention came to Philadelphia. I think it was a Republican convention, and it was anarchists. That's basically what Antifa is, anarchists, people who don't believe in
Yeah.
hierarchical government. And now they've come up with this scary name for Antifa, which is anti-fascism. But I mean, it's always something scary, like the new Black Panthers that they use in order to gin up fear amongst the base. Go ahead, Clay.
To Michael's point, I just wanted to say, when we talk about this issue of white supremacy, it's important to know that white people as well can be hurt by white supremacy. Look at Michael, how he was attacked on January 6th. I don't want people to think that the targets of white supremacy are just black and brown folks. That what white supremacy does is it gives you a racial hierarchy to cling on to as rich white folks rob you blind. As right now they're destroying your health care and got you thinking it's somebody else. For white folks, they're coming for you too in rural areas. Mm-hmm. They're coming for you as well, as you're on social services, as you need the government to help you because you've paid your taxes and you deserve something in return. This whole formula of white supremacy, go back to Reconstruction, as they were damaging black communities. They were also destroying white communities as well too. They were disenfranchising poor white folks. That's always been the plan. What did Lyndon B. Johnson say? That if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pockets. Hell, he'll give him somebody to look down on. That is white supremacy in a nutshell. And I don't want people to think it's just a black and brown target. No, they're coming for you as well, like they did with Michael, like they still do with Michael, the kind of attacks that he gets online. So we're all collectively in this. Can you imagine if we could break this bullshit down and have coalitions and not let that shit get in the way?
Yeah. No,
Mike, Mike, why aren't they talking about this real quickly, if you can, for me, because I've got to run in a bit. Why aren't they talking about this shooter in Michigan and the shooter in North Carolina?
I mean, that's the easiest question I've been asked all week, Don. It's because the shooters don't fit their narrative. I mean, look at, every speech that Donald Trump has given, every, press conference that Pam Bondi or Kash Patel have given over the past several weeks. They have cherry-picked each and every incident involving, whether it was a school shooter or any type of mass shooting incident, and even glossing over January 6th, in which literally thousands of Trump supporters, many of which were members of these far-right extremist groups like the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers and the Proud Boys, some of whom were even convicted of seditious conspiracy, something that hasn't been charged in this country since the Civil War, and found guilty, I might add, and later pardoned by Donald Trump. But that's the whole point. The point is to create a narrative for his base in which it is radical leftists, left-leaning organizations, the Democratic Party that are attacking, Republicans, attacking conservatives, and again, to Clay's point, create this, which I mean, it's very clear in the conversations that I've had with many people that still, reside in the MAGA camp, is that they don't even care anymore if Donald Trump's policies adversely affect them, as long as they can keep pointing the finger at this radical left boogeyman. They've just become so comfortable with having a shitty life and having a hard life and not having politicians deliver for them, that as long as they can, buy a bunch of fucking guns, and have, somebody to be vehemently angry at, have an enemy, they're fine.
Michael, you could have answered that really shortly just by saying because he's wearing a Trump shirt. No, I'm joking with you. Okay, so look, is your government going to shut down in a couple of hours? I mean, it's looming. It's midnight is the deadline. 2 minutes, word from our sponsors, and we'll talk about that when we come back.
Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Ollie. You know how much I love my dogs. Boomer thinks that he runs the house. Barkley acts like he's too good for kibble. And Gus, well, he would eat my shoe off if I'm not looking, although he is pretty picky too. So I had to upgrade their food, and that's where Ollie comes in. Quite frankly, Ollie was there from the very beginning. We wanted to make sure we tried some things, but Ollie always won out. It's fresh, human-grade food, the kind of stuff that I'd actually eat if they'd let me. So since I switched, their coats are shinier, their energy is up, and Barkley and Gus, the picky ones, now clean the bowls. All of them are picky. Their favorites, beef recipe, mine too, if I'm being honest, because I like to see how much they love it. Ollie tailors a meal plan just for your dog with a quick quiz, and then they even have an app with health screenings. And if your pup isn't into it, Ollie has a happiness guarantee. So go to ollie.com/lemon and use the code lemon to get 60% off of your first box. That's OLLIE.com/lemon. So this show today is also sponsored by Shopify. This show started as a dream, and then Shopify came in and turned that dream into a business. And if Shopify can help me, trust me, they can help anybody. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses, from big names to your neighbor selling candles on Instagram. We use it here for the Don Lemon Show merch. It's easy. You get a slick website, built-in AI to help you with descriptions and emails. And if you're stuck, there's 24/7 customer support. And nothing beats the sound of that first sale. Cha-ching! That's Shopify telling you that your dream just made money. Here's the sound. You got to love that sound. So if you've been sitting on an idea, stop overthinking it, okay? Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/lemon. That's shopify.com/lemon, and turn those dreams into with Shopify. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsors. We appreciate you guys helping us stay here viable in these streaming streets out here. So, Clay, it's midnight. Is the government going to shut down?
I feel like Mary J. Blige. I'm going down. Time on my hands.
That was. Do we know? I love Mary
Rolls
J.
Royce.
That was Rolls Royce.
Okay, you're right. Oh, what's her name? Gwen. I forgot her last name. I'm sorry.
From Rolls Royce. I can't remember her name, but that was the jam.
You're right.
Going down. Okay, go ahead.
I love getting God to sing. I don't know what's going to happen. It does appear there will be a government shutdown. I'm concerned for so many folks that are going to be impacted by it. Somebody said, what are we going to do versus just talking points? I've been saying this for a while. Please be tapped into your local communities. Be tapped into your nonprofits. Look up Common Defense. They do really amazing work. Transformative Justice Coalition. If you aren't tapped in locally, now is the time to show up. Fair Election Center, they're really phenomenal as well. But hey, it appears this might happen, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I still have faith that we're going to be all right.
Someone in the account, thank you, Forensic Accountant, says it is Gwen Dickey. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mike, you know a lot of folks who might be affected by this. Do you think it's going to shut down? And what do you think this means for the country?
I mean, yes, I think it's going to shut down. I don't know how much more dysfunctional things could get as a country than, where we're already at. But, as being a cop for 20 years, I know that things can always get worse. That being said, I mean, I know a lot of federal workers. I know a lot of workers that have already been fired by this administration through the Doge cuts. And I would just say that, as a community, we need to look out for those people, be cognizant of the fact that your neighbors, in the next couple of weeks, months, may not be receiving a paycheck, and, extend a helping hand. That's what we can do as, we the people. Unfortunately, Donald Trump's taken this moment to say things like, well, we're not just going to furlough people like we used to. We're going to start firing people, but don't worry, we're only going to fire Democrats. That's something that he said today from the Oval Office, which is absolutely disgusting. But we do need to come together as a country.
By the way.
Yeah, but we need to come together as a country, and we need to take care of our own, because everybody's being adversely affected by that. But we need to stay engaged, and we've got some No King's Day coming up on the October 18th. Refuse fascism on November 5th. People need to stand up and let their voices be heard. Because, I mean, unfortunately, no institution, no agency is going to save us from this administration. It's going to have to be us, we the people.
Yeah. And with that said, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you joining. I'll see you next time. Be safe out there, by the way. So if you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, you can go to our website, which is donlemon.com. You can find out anything you need to know. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you become a member. It keeps us viable out here. And tune in a little bit if you want. I'm going to be on linear television, which is interesting because I haven't been on linear television in a little bit. And usually I only do it for friends like Ari Melber. So you can tune in to me on Ari Melber's show in just a bit. But so if you want to know anything about the show, go to donlemon.com. Anything about our main YouTube page, put up the QR code that we have. Pick up your phones, hit the camera, press on the little yellow thing that says YouTube. It'll take you right to our YouTube page where you can subscribe and become a member, okay? So as I always tell you, you can be informed without being inundated until I see you back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And I'll probably see you before then with this looming government shutdown. Look for me to go live tonight. We'll send out the notifications. But until we see you next time, so I want you to be informed without being inundated and turn the TV off.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you